Today is April 1st, 2026. Welcome to a modern liturgy for the human condition. Section 3.1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good rotation of the earth. May the peace of the Holy Spirit be with you. Welcome to the World Crown. The sections for our judgment liturgy are in the process of being updated. Before I begin, I invite you to read the April page at MMXII, Orbis, Terrarum, Judicivm, Château Versailles. If you have not read our first responder section, please do right now. If you happen to be an anarchist or an atheist for this life of yours and the World Crown has caught your interest, I welcome you. It is not the end of the world. Even if you get judged, I promise you my Holy Spirit will bring you back to your better senses. Judgment liturgies, I feel, are necessary. They can be mixed into any religion. Religion has quite an extensive history of successes and failures. And so in the new era, I see religions really making a better effort to become what they should be. To gain new adherents, any religion in the new era might present itself to people by its historical date, a verified name of man or woman, then a history of its evolution, of what it has done since its founding, and how it responds or has responded to the existence of other religions. A good religion will explain to their adherents why men, having founded their religion, did not return to it exclusively. And when he did return, why man and woman blessed all the major religions created thus far in our world. Eventually, every one of man's religions will have to develop some kind of system of apologetics which explain the mistakes of a particular religion and how the religion is going to make up for those mistakes. A good religious teacher in Confucianism, for example, might say, "Our master wrote the tale." Then he might point to Siddhartha Gautama in Buddhism and say, "That too is our master." Only the correct and most moral teachings, of course. That same religious teacher in Confucianism might say, in Hinduism, our master is known as Vishnu. In Judaism, he is Solomon and Moses. In Christianity, he is Jesus. And in Islam, they call him Allah or Elohim or Muhammad. Any of the major religions can use this approach and still be adherents of their new reformed religion. Don't be surprised to see more women as leaders in religion, and perhaps seeing a cleaned up goddess religion. But be not mistaken, that men have also sacrificed children, women, and men to God as a male figure as well, and even as a hybrid. And so we find ourselves on the earth, awoken to a period of years, 1919 to the present, which, like an organism which has no chance of survival, must account for itself, but will not be able to account for itself. Those judged 1919 to the present have in heaven before the Holy Spirit already accounted for their sins, but on earth their conspiracies have not. Human condition conspiracies don't stop. They don't account for their sins and even less care about the judgment of their members. They are dangerous, but manageable by the power of God's Holy Spirit. The entire period of years you enjoyed your communism, your democracies, your monarchies, your sports and arts, life in indigenous communities, or raised a family in a nice new home. There have been conspiracies of death in progress. During that time, conspirators perish daily in the judgment of God without you knowing or being told. They were cold-hearted men, lauded as men of respect and honor by their conspiracies, yet their end was like that of a common criminal. In the judgment of God, suddenly interest rates drop. Then, without warning, they go up. Economies enter into a state of flux. Some remain almost the same, but there are always a new gathering storm of hotshots which need to be reckoned with. At the same time, your late president is shown on television like a beacon of light, taking credit for the lowering of interest rates and the good things of the nation. From 1919 to the present has been one long cover-up. One cover-up after another, and nations helping and coaching each other as to what to do when a socialist leader gets judged almost as soon as he or she takes office. Democracies go to great trouble to establish their socialist presidency for 4 to 6 years, whereas dictatorships are generally more lazy. Major changes in the status quo are not realized for light and transient causes. Leaderless conspiracies of death in every nation, trained in socialism and atheism, are going to stop. And so a good judgment liturgy is offered every month at the World Crown, and it includes the greater perspective. And our judgment liturgy is also the resurrection. So we know that those men and women who we loved and who perished in the judgment will one day be ice fishing Eskimos, having forgotten the shameful end to their previous lives. We have in the past used direct judgment liturgies, but any good Catholic Mass or Muslim service, even some Hindu services, carry the weight and feel that our Holy Spirit is present with us. And where there is tyranny, so too there is justice. when the human condition evolves on earth spiritually, so that darkness, hate, racism, and white supremacy no longer exist, religion will take on a much different feel, and life will feel less heavy. Right now, religions are heavy and thick with the presence of the Holy Spirit. And so at the World Crown, we offer a nice judgment liturgy, which any religion can adapt. A good liturgy is something which usually does not change unless a new format is introduced. Every month, we try to add a different beginning to ours in order to spice it up. That said, I welcome you to our modern liturgy for the human condition. Let us begin. I rejoice and trust in you, my precious, tender Holy Spirit. Please help us to learn what we don't understand, and teach us and guide us in today's liturgy. We live by the grace of God's Holy Spirit. And for some people, that grace sometimes runs out. The World Crown is here to help you understand God's justice and also know that the major religions of this world are not or were not conceived in vain. The grace of God's Holy Spirit continues the existence of people who make mistakes, such as hurting animals or other humans. But every evil and wicked deed comes with a cost. God is justice. God is right justice, which we don't often see. What we can see sometimes are humans which have succeeded in this lifetime to become caring humans. I exhort you to make it your prayer to always be a caring and loving human in every life that you live. I now take the time to congratulate all of you who have made the effort in your current life to love and care for humans and animals. You might not all have educational degrees, but your love is all you need. The skies are blue, and little churches and temples and mosques in many communities just finished preaching their sermons. In a hospital room, a man has died of old age, thinking Donald Trump is president and Alvaro Thais is Jesus. Another old man on his deathbed clings to his Book of Mormon, knowing nothing else. An old gypsy woman works her tarot cards. She draws the death card for the man sitting in front of her. She loves her tarot cards. From above, our precious, tender Holy Spirit watches all its children, knowing everything about them and their existence, and carefully measuring each life they live. In an old folks' home, a man who was taught you only live once prepares himself for death daily by praying and asking forgiveness for his sins. In another part of the home, women are happily playing cards. Nearby, two men argue about pre- and post-dispensationalism, but neither of them know what they're really talking about, thinking the second coming of Jesus is still to come and will be followed by Jesus' 1,000-year reign. I so wish God's Holy Spirit would give me 1,000 years on earth to correct things, but our existence is not made easy. Simply stated, the argument for pre-dispensationalism posits a dual-stage return of Christ, with the church removed by rapture before God's 7-year tribulation. Rapture is not interpreted correctly. But post-dispensationalism argues the church goes through the tribulation. In reality, dispensationalism is a form of eschatology, an eschatological view of God's judgment for the human condition and its plans for the church, emphasizing a rapture, correctly stated as a judgment of the human condition. A serious judgment of God's Holy Spirit is the final escalation in an already occurring judgment of God, which many call a tribulation. God's plans for the church, the human condition, is for your souls to be born again. And so even communists are part of the unseen church of heaven. Heaven is the great dictatorship, the place where our souls were created and where we all come from. And so to heaven we will one day all return. You are all the children of heaven, from the worst of you at this moment in time to the best of you, from the most unbelieving to the most believing. But be not dismayed. God is not mocked. All of us are subject to the rules, processes, and justice of the great dictatorship, which makes sure to limit the harm which we can do to ourselves and which returns us back to heaven after each life we live. Some have to go through purgatory. They are guaranteed they will succeed. God's Holy Spirit is the great teacher who makes sure we all pass and make it to heaven. The judgment and justice of God's Holy Spirit on earth must still be understood. From 1919 to the present, while Christians were arguing pre- and post-dispensationalism, casting out Satan, and believing that what they were doing was the right thing to do, God's Holy Spirit was judging atheist wizards, communist wizards, socialist wizards, democracy wizards, Muslim wizards, Pope wizards, clergy wizards, priest wizards, Christian wizards, Krishna wizards, Hindu wizards, Zoroastrian wizards, Jewish wizards, Freemason wizard presidents and wizard politicians, as well as the atheist world leaders who collaborated with white supremacy, cult aggression, if not atheist aggression. And everyone together furthering the sexual aggression which exists on our planet. The justice of God's Holy Spirit is perfectly timed justice. It is qualified justice. God's justice is steady, continual relief from evil. God's justice is a freebie, which we should be thankful for. God's justice is high justice. Justice, however, is also a collaboration. A huge wake-up call goes up in every Amber Alert. But how do you know that the status quo is not controlling every aspect of your perception as to why children disappear? that man or woman you see on television. They could be you. Humans must take responsibility for their existence, follow the commandments of God, and not blame God for not doing it all for them. When the human condition has mastered itself, their children will no longer disappear to secret societies or vagrants created by bad parenting, other men and women. The judgment of God is power. God's power is not given enough credit. It makes possible better housing, food, good living, the latest model car, sports, and many good things, while at the same time limiting the death of white supremacy and the harm white supremacy can do to us. The justice of God's Holy Spirit is so rice can continue to flow, so good people can live in peace, so we can argue pre- and post-dispensationalism and speculate and worship God's Holy Spirit in all our religions. The justice of God's Holy Spirit is the government of heaven, which lets us know the reality of our existence. You are the children of heaven who live out their existence between heaven and earth. You will be born again. The human condition is always in a state of judgment and resurrection, with escalations occurring, ones which can last many years, depending on the country you live in. Now let us move on to the next section.